your opponents 112 in the first half. Can you kind of delve into maybe the emotional impacts that has both on your team in a positive way and on the opponent, kind of a demoralizing effect?
For us, we talk a lot about getting off to a fast start. I think the faster we start, the quicker we get in the rhythm. And so it helps the psyche on the sideline while all the offensive guys also with the defense. And then I would imagine it probably puts some pressure on the opposing team as well. But that's a focus for ours. I didn't know the actual spread there, didn't know the numbers, but that's good to know, because sometimes it doesn't feel like that. But no, we want to get off to a fast start. We always talk about just coming out playing clean, get off to a fast start, put some pressure on defense, and go have fun.
Everybody had put Trevor and Travis on all these Heisman lists at the beginning of the year. And obviously the numbers aren't there just because of the way the games have played out. But can you just speak to, as a coaching staff, you guys don't, there's no need to worry about that, is there? And you don't.
No, we don't worry about it. Obviously, that decision is made outside of our control, outside of our building. We just focus on being the best version of ourselves, playing our best football, and offensively, we've always talked about as well. Not having an ego. With what we do offensively, each team's going to have a plan on how they want to defend us, and we just have to take what's there. So I'll speak into Travis's situation. I mean, he's faced a lot of 8-man boxes. A lot of people have said we're not going to let you run the football, but he's still running hard. He's still playing at a high level, and if he continues to do that, then ultimately at the end of the season, he'll look up and he'll get what he's earned. So that's all we really talk about. We don't focus on any of the awards, because at the end of the day, it's a team sport. It's the ultimate team sport, and that's all we focus on is how these guys play, and then we let everybody else decide all that other stuff.
Chef was saying that he went up to T. Like, I think you're done after just a couple of series. The team's like, yeah, get somebody else in there. The rest of the team, do they take that same mindset, that attitude?
No question. I think there's a couple of pictures. If you just go look at the end of the Syracuse game when Ches gets in there and breaks a long run, Travis is one of the first guys to congratulate him coming off the field. Same thing with Mikey Dukes when he scored this week. And so those guys, that they understand they were in that position at one time. And they appreciate the fact that the older guys, wanted them to get an opportunity to play. And they also understand, too, that we got to have depth. And the only way that we build depth, is the competitive depth, is that those guys get experience. So they're excited to play. They want to play. Obviously, they're competitors, but they're excited to see their teammates play. They understand the benefit long term. And I think that's been something that's really helped our program over the last couple of years, is as we get to the end of the season, because we've played a lot of guys, guys are able to stay fresh. And also you have that competitive depth down the stretch.
Tony, guys can stay fresh. Does it limit their sharpness? I mean, if Trevor's only playing 15 minutes, does that help the sharpness, or can you stay sharp even when you're not on the field?
I think it's a combination of the game and practice too. I think the way that you prepare and how you practice is going to determine how you play. And so the key is making sure when we come out on this practice field that we're sharp. And then again, obviously this was Trevor's first situation where he came out relatively early, but Travis has played a good amount of snaps throughout the course. Even though those other guys have played, Travis has still played a good amount of snaps. So I think it's really what they do on the practice field, and then maximizing the opportunities they have in the game will determine how well they play.
You think with Coach? Go ahead.
Was Travis last year, at the end of the year, the best example of what you're talking about, staying fresh, compared to, I guess, the year before when he was, I guess, the opposite?
The year before, I think it was a different situation, so I think that's a yes and a no answer to that one. The first being when he was a freshman, he was coming straight in from high school, hadn't been in the weight room, so I think that was a function of just, playing a longer season, not understanding how to take care of his body, and then the next year, the ability to play guys helps him to stay fresh throughout the course of the year. But again, he did play a lot of snaps. I think the biggest thing for those guys is not just the snap counts, but how they prehab, how their nutrition is, how they're sleeping. I think that's a big component of them being able to be at their best at the end of the season.
Do you think with the way Coach Sweeney pulls guys like Trevor and them, that maybe he can kind of start a trend necessarily where making these Heisman voters have actually kind of like watch games instead of getting caught up in so much statistics?
I don't know if I know the answer to that one, but hopefully, it does resonate throughout college football that it's not about stats. It's about managing your locker room, creating a culture. That's the culture that we have in place. Coach believes in giving guys an opportunity to play that deserve to play, and we reward those guys for the way that they work in practice. And so, that's something that we believe in wholeheartedly, starting at the top with Coach Sweeney, all the way down to the coaches through the locker room. And if it catches on, it catches on. But really, we're focusing on our ourselves. But here recently we've had a chance to kind of impact college football a little bit.
Can you kind of compare and contrast the competition between Chez and Dukes as far as their battling for positioning and pecking order?
It's day to day. It's week to week. I think they each got a different set of skills. You watch Chez run. I mean, he's a violent downhill one-cut runner. You watch Dukes. He's very elusive. Likes to get in open space. Very, very quick twitch. So they're different. But I think the biggest thing for them is week to week being able to grasp what the protection plan is. And this week here is going to be tough because Bateman does a great job up at North Carolina. He changes his fronts a lot, brings a lot of exotic blitzes, so to speak. He's bringing corners, bringing safeties, and he's got you stemming in and out of front. So the biggest thing for those guys is me having the confidence to put them in the game that they can keep my quarterback upright. I think running the football, they have a good grasp of what we're trying to do from a schematic standpoint. But the biggest thing is just me having the confidence that they can make the adjustments and be able to communicate with the offensive line and the quarterback, as quick as it happens in the game so that they can get in there. So week to week is different. But biggest thing for those guys is just coming to work. And they both got a great attitude. They both understand, where they're at on the depth chart. They understand why they're there. They understand the things that they got to work on, and they attack it every single week. And, the other night was a really good opportunity for us to get them some playing time, and hopefully as the season goes on, we'll continue to have more opportunities to get them in there and so they can show me in the game, not just on the practice field. They got players. Biggest thing is they're playing hard. They're playing hard. You can tell that they believe in the scheme. Their nose guard number 92 does a really, really good job inside. He can be a two-gap guy. He can be a penetrator when he wants to. They're athletic at defensive end. I remember number 12 Fox from coming out of when I was recruiting Gwinnett County from Collins Hill. He's a very, very strong. Reminds me a lot of like a Vic Beasley type of guy. Probably not 270 pounds, but man, he's strong for his size. A veteran guy's played a lot of football. Their safeties are aggressive. They're aggressive, and then their corners are confident playing man coverage. And then the scheme, gives them a chance. Bateman's very, very multiple. He's going to stem and move his front. He's always going to be challenging you. He's going to get that seventh defender near the box, whether it's the nickel Sam in their odd structure, or it's going to be one of those safeties fitting in their 4-down 2-shell structure. So it's going to be a good challenge for us. Both figuring out in the running game because again. They're so multiple, and they change fronts, and they create so many single blocks on a lot of things that they do. So you got to be pinpoint accurate in the running game, and then because of that, they get so many guys near the box that they can bring a lot of pressure, and they can run your protections hot if you're not careful. So it's going to be a good challenge for us all the way across the board, at every position to make sure that we respect the preparation process this week, just like we did last week. And that was probably the thing I was most proud about, from the offensive standpoint, is they really, really, respected and appreciated the preparation process, and they were able to come out and play clean.
Tell me, what's a message this week? Because I know these guys are probably like, hey, we've been going hard 2 months. We finish this game, we get a week off.
Well, it's the biggest game of the season. It's a conference game. These guys, they want a piece of us just like everybody else wants a piece of us. So we can't focus on next week. All we can focus on is where our feet are. That's today. And again, I know I get redundant. You probably get tired of hearing me saying, but Mental Monday, Tanoga Tuesday, and that's going to be the point of emphasis and really taking the momentum out of the last week's game and carrying it into this game. And up to the first half, especially with the veteran guys, they played their best half of football. I mean, let's carry that forward and let's have the challenge every single week to top what we did last week and make each week the best performance that we've had all year. So there's a lot of things to get these guys motivated, to have them looking ahead to the open date.
Is playing a defense like Clemson in practice in fall camp, does that help when you come up with a team against a team like North Carolina that's very multiple? Does that help game planning wise, or just?
It helps me to calm my nerves a little bit when you cut on the film and you see so many different things. Then you're able to say, hey, look, we go against Brent in our defense every single day, and so we have the answers. We just got to go back and revisit some of the thoughts that we had in fall camp and preparation process, and so it gives us confidence knowing that hey, we're going to find the adjustments. We're going to find the right schemes to get our guys in, and so it just gives us confidence, to go back and just rest on our experience that we've had on our own practice field. But again, you got to tip your hat to what Coach Bateman's doing with those guys up in North Carolina.
I'm sure you've seen some crazy things over all your years here as a player and a coach. Where does the fact that you guys head to the locker room and Disney needs to, I mean, I'm going to get halftime, you got 50 Clemson Tigers running down the middle of the field. Where does that kind of rank up?
That was pretty cool. It was pretty cool, pretty interesting, and I was trying not to pay any attention to it, you know. So all of a sudden I look up and I'm pretty mellow. I try to stay quiet, other than when I'm calling the plays on the headset or when I'm directing traffic, trying to get something corrected. But I said, hey boys, look, they got the guys at the top of the hill, and then Coach Sweeney looks up and said, hey, the real Tigers on the field and the Hollywood Tigers on the hill. So it was pretty neat experience. And wish would have had an opportunity to see how it operated, because that probably would have been pretty fascinating. I understand they did it in a matter of, I heard, and I may not be accurate on this, but I heard somebody say they might have shot 50-plus scenes in like 6.5, 7 minutes. So that's pretty cool.
Is there, Trevor talks about it, the players talk about it all the time, Brent, and some of the stuff that he comes up with in practice. And has there ever been a moment out on the practice field when you're like, dude, we're in week 2 of fall camp, why would you run that? Or he's just totally come up with something that surprised you?
That's day one. I'm not waiting till it's not. And again, and I have to remind the offensive staff, because again, there's a progression that we want to teach you, especially offensively, with the way that we install, and a lot of times things don't marry up, and we understand that. And so I just have to remind the guys, hey fellas, let's not get frustrated, man. Let's just put on our thinking caps and let's figure out. And then the problem is that's every single day, because as soon as you fix one thing, right, then he comes with something else. But again, it goes back to that gives us confidence, when we play, especially when you're transitioning from playing last week, where they pretty much lined up and gave you a base look pretty much every play, to now, I mean, you're going to get so many different things, from play to play. It's not just from series to series, play to play. So that actually starts on day 1, and it goes through day 29 of fall camp. But again, that's really what's made us, go on offense over the years, is because it challenges us, physically on the field. It challenges us mentally, and it makes us grow as coaches, which in turn helps our players to grow.
Jay Payton, the defensive coordinator at UNC, spent 5 years in Army. They have to be so technically sound. Can you see part of that Army influence in what he's been able to do at UNC?
Of course, because you can see the coordination, especially when you watch the defensive line when they're transitioning from being 4-down penetrators to that odd front where they're 2-gap guys. You can tell that their steps are coordinated. They play well with their hands, so you can definitely see that. Obviously, more time at Army, 5 years, a little bit more consistency. So on the back end, he challenges those guys. So they're still trying to figure out how some of the coverage concepts fits. But you definitely can see that in that box, those guys they're on the same page.
Tell me the progression of Sean at center, Cade also at center. Pleased with what they have done in the progression, because they're your signal callers for your offensive line.
Definitely. I think you go back to, and I say this, and this is just my opinion, but I think when we became, a true championship, program to compete year in and year out is when we were solid up the middle, from the center to the quarterback, and that started with Jay. And just his growth as a center, and it's carried over. And I think that's, kind of created a tradition at that center position of those guys taking a lot of pride in the responsibility that they have. And Sean is a very, very cerebral football player. And I think that now he's played all the position, but he's really found a home, at center, because he can direct traffic. And he's done a really good job. Even on the first play of the game, I got the question after the game about the 2-yard game. Well, they came out in a completely different, look than we expected. And the great thing was, as soon as we came to the sideline, Sean was able to articulate it. He said, hey, look, that was a corner down, had a 3 technique to that side. I wasn't really sure about making the plus point, so I pointed to the middle of the guy, and, hey, that's exactly what we wanted you to do. So just his growth and maturity and the confidence that he has. And the same thing with Cade. Cade's a guy that had to play out at Texas A&M, for us last year. And he's doing a really good job. And so we put a lot of onus on the centers, to make sure the backs are coordinated to keep the quarterback protected. So I'm really pleased with the progression, and I think that they're going to continue to get better as we going throughout the course of the season.
Tony, how important was it the game that Joseph Pagano had the touchdown catch for him, for his confidence going forward?
I think it was huge, for him. He's a guy that's I don't think I've gotten 2 words out of him other than yes, coach, yes, coach. You say something to him, that's all he says, yes, coach, yes, coach. And not only does he say that, the next play, he's trying to do it exactly, the way that you wanted to do. And so for him to have an opportunity to get in there and make a couple big plays, get in the end zone, I think that's just going to continue to push him to perform at a high level. So I think that was big for him, and that's what I told him, for the game. And your time's coming. Just be patient. Don't grow weary. That's a principle in our program we talk a lot about. Don't grow weary in doing what's good. good, for you'll reap the reward at the proper time, and his proper time was the last Saturday.